Hi everyone, and welcome to Seeblue Smarts, where we talk about hot topics in the world of B2B marketing and account-based marketing. This time around, it's a slightly different format. We normally have guest speakers come and join us and talk about relevant topics. But actually, this is the conversation that Helen and I have been having between ourselves and with clients and with prospects for a number of weeks. So we thought we'd record an episode with just the two of us. And it's really talking about some of the barriers that we're seeing and that people are experiencing today around ABM success. So what are the things holding people back from realizing the maximum potential of their ABM programs? And I know, Helen, you've had really great conversations and social posts going out around this, and likewise, I've been commenting and talking about it quite a lot. So, I mean, maybe Helen, do you want to let's start and what are the conversations that you're having, the big issues that you're seeing?
Yeah, this does come up a lot, and I think one of the most obvious things is sales and marketing alignment. Now, those of you who run ABM programs, and many businesses have started some kind of program by this point in time, you'd think, yeah, absolutely, we've got that nailed. We had the briefing at the beginning, we set a process in place, so therefore all is well. I guess the question I would ask back to anybody is, what might be the telltale signs that perhaps sales and marketing alignment isn't quite as strong as you would think? And it might be something as subtle as your program, it just feels a bit harder than it ought to, or things are going a bit more slowly than you think they should. That can be a sign that actually that level of integration, you may have it at the executive level, but deeper down when it comes to your actual kind of sales individuals and your marketing team who are delivering and running the program into the accounts, is not quite there. So it is still one of the biggest fundamental factors. And for example, we are working with a large global organization and set up, as you do at the start of a program, the alignment workshop, the first kickoff workshop. And we had all of the teams there from sales and marketing, but the two people that did not attend on the day, so they were scheduled to attend but didn't turn up, head of sales and the marketing director. And what that told us straight away is that alignment wasn't there. And lo and behold, it was almost impossible in that workshop to agree on and define really what were the objectives that you were trying to deliver against here. And if you don't have that upfront, really, you shouldn't even start at that point in time. That's one of the hardest things.
Yeah, I definitely see that alignment, and there's so many different levels of alignment, isn't there? So that alignment at a senior stakeholder level, so not having the head of sales and marketing, two key senior stakeholders involved in that initial kickoff, suggests one, are we both agreed that this is the right investment to make in account-based marketing? Are we committed and bought in? And I guess sometimes schedules, everyone is busy and diary doesn't allow, but I think at the very least you want to ensure you have that level of commitment at that executive level, and then maintain that level of alignment as you go. It's not a one-off activity, is it? It's right down to the people at the coalface. How well aligned are all the teams? Are the SDRs, the account managers, the field marketing teams? Because that's definitely something that I see, and I've had a number of conversations as well, is that alignment between from executive and global functions, oftentimes down to field and regional teams, and there's often a disconnect between priorities and buy-in that's established globally, or a senior stakeholder down to people who are actually having conversations. Are they the right accounts that we're prioritizing in region? Are they the right, are they tactics that are helping me move a conversation forward and build pipeline and close pipeline? Do I have the right tools that I need actually to do that, to have those conversations and drive those results? So yeah, I think definitely getting that.
You can also get a disconnect actually. You can have really great executive alignment, but as you say, on the coalface, so the marketing team can start operating in a more strategic way, build a fantastic, what they perceive to be a fantastic sales playbook that introduces all of this solution selling oriented messaging. It's really based on customer needs and drivers, but it's targeted at a C-level. Now then, if you happen to have a new or developing sales team, and not all of whom are operating at a solution selling level, actually they're going in to sell products and services, there can be a massive disconnect between what's being written, what's being created, and what they're actually the message they're able to pitch to their customer. So you could actually have a training or an awareness issue, but in fact, what the way it's presented is the marketing content, the material that you're creating is not having the impact that you would want for your sales team, and therefore not for the end customer. So you've got to really look at that, the whole journey, to try and unpick where is it that we feel like we're not aligned, if you think you're having challenges.
Yeah, that end-to-end alignment. How robust is it? How do I continue to work on it? So what are the key check-in points? Is it weekly, monthly, quarterly? What's that rhythm of communication across that whole internal stakeholder piece? And then the tooling, as you say, to how do I enable each of my key stakeholders with the right tools and ongoing support to ensure I'm then able to deliver against the expectations that are set. Yeah.
Exactly. And connected to that, I think, is also, is there a really deep understanding of how much time it takes genuinely to convert somebody from potentially considering your business's product or solution to having a live conversation with sales that then converts to a customer? If your typical sales process takes 9 months, then if you start measuring your ABM program in 3 months against a revenue target, it is going to be perceived as failing. And that's a really big watch out for the person that's owning that program, setting that expectation up front, but you have to keep resetting it. And I'm not suggesting for a minute that you don't measure anything for the first year of an ABM program, because clearly you do. I think the emphasis then becomes looking at what are your indicators of success? How have you understood and got feedback from the market that your messaging is correct and everything else in the program? But if you measure on revenue, when actually it takes longer to convert than you're giving it a chance to succeed in, then that of itself can cause actually quite major disruptions between sales and marketing.
Yeah, expectation setting is definitely something we see, and often why ABM programs can be canned in some cases, can be halted before they've really had a chance to establish themselves in the market. Because I know certainly a message we always, or conversation we have with clients is that this is not a tactic or a campaign, right? This is a long-term approach to how you set up and run and execute your B2B marketing, right? And you're making in many cases quite a shift from the sort of things you've been doing in the past, the programs you've been running, the lead gen type activity, and you're making quite a fundamental shift towards ABM. And it does take a little bit of time to find the approaches, the messaging, the targeting, the execution can take time to refine and embed. And I think that's why we always say, well, look at what are your measures of success for the program that you're setting up? How have you set yourself KPIs that will reflect short, medium, and long-term results? And something like in the short term, where you have a set of accounts or strategic accounts, and that can be a customer or net new logo that you're going after. How well do I know the people within those accounts? How many conversations have I had with those accounts? What is their understanding of what we do as a business? So that, consideration, the strength of relationships, and their short-term, KPIs that you can look at, versus then in the longer term, as you say, if it's a 9-12 month sales cycle, you need to set your objectives. How is my pipeline growing? Is my sales cycle shortening? Have I improved client NPS? Have I retained the customers? There's lots of more longer term kind of KPIs that you can set, and actually taking the time to map those out is really important, right, in terms of expectation setting. I think the other one that we both see quite a lot is often making pretty steep investments in technology. So I'm going all in on ABM, therefore I must invest in all the technology that I need because it is really resource intensive. Let me look at what I can automate, and there's so many, you know, vendors out there, and often you go really big on the technology and you sell the business case into your senior stakeholders that this is going to help deliver ABM. That immediately puts pressure as a marketer. I've won this, or I've got approval for this business case and this big investment, and now what?
And that, yeah, it's true. And a number of people come to us because they have made that investment, and it is doing an element of the ABM piece really, really well, but it isn't all of ABM. And I've written quite a lot about this before, just because we talk about it so much. If you think about what it is, so that each vendor has its own solution with different technical features, of course, but in essence, it's helping you to identify who is actively searching for your product in market based on keywords, and enabling you to get tailored content to that audience more efficiently and in a streamlined way. But what that takes somebody to, your audience to, is kind of top to mid funnel. So what it doesn't do is help and work with your sales team to convert that into the meeting and ultimately revenue and cross-sell, upsell. It doesn't come up with that playbook. It doesn't come up with those recommendations or the message of itself. It still needs a team of people who are putting that strategy together and ultimately executing. So oftentimes it's not that the technology is not being successful. It's only that particular business have only implemented the first part, the first answer to the overall equation of ABM, and not all of it. So it's kind of, yes, and next what we need to do is X, Y, Z. And that's what takes the experience of running the ABM program, which either people, bring people in-house into their team, or work with agencies like ourselves to help with that strategic support.
Yeah, definitely. And it is, big investment is made. I get it up running as quickly as I can. I find myself running a huge amount of, paid ads through the platform. And that's, in some cases, that's my view of ABM. And there is that complete disconnect. How do I engage those individuals within accounts that are, that we see traction from a paid media perspective, but how do I continue that conversation and really focus on, it's almost like bringing inbound, it is inbound and outbound motions, right? We are coming at it from two perspectives. So it's how do we, how do teams set up the marketing activity using these platforms, using some of the intelligence, and then ensure that we've got the right insights, the right playbooks, the right activation plan that you can, attach an outbound motion. And it's, I don't think you're looking at one or the other. I actually think it's both working in combination, because I think that inbound, activity and that marketing-led activation is continuing to enrich their understanding of your solution, your, the capability that you have to solve a particular need or pain points that they have, building that brand relevance and association, all really important in a targeted, focused way to a set of accounts or individuals or common needs or challenges, and then supporting from an outbound.
I think to that point exactly is probably a relevant moment to start talking about budget, because actually what can happen if you take that technology first approach is that actually, no matter how big your budget in any business, it's always going to have a cap. And if the majority of that is spent on onboarding amazing tech, you've really got to question and think for yourself, well, what is left over to actually activate, to deliver this, to bring this to market? Because one of the reasons, coming back to our initial question about, people come to us and say, oh, my ABM is not working, or at least not in the way I want it to. What's going on? Can you help me figure it out? Part of that sometimes is about budget being spread too thin. And actually, if you break ABM down, Yes, it's a specific way of going to market, and it's a specific structure and approach, but ultimately all of the principles of really good marketing, great content marketing, great this marketing, that marketing, they all still apply, don't they? You still have to think about what is your channel mix when you get to that point. What's the message? The message is based off the insight. Have you made assumptions in your insight, or have you really validated what those people in your target audience need? Because actually, kind of way back when, marketing was about, oh, what sector is it, and is it the IT director or the IT manager? Well, actually, in an ABM world, you're talking about a much more complex buying center. So does your business, have you guessed at what that buying center needs and why they wouldn't buy from you, or do you really understand it because you've actually done some quick interviews, research, whether that's qual or quant? There's so many assumptions that can be made along that journey that actually, when it comes to looking at your ABM spend and your ABM performance, you have to break it down at every step of the way, don't you? Otherwise, you can very quickly assume that it's something over here to blame at the end of the process, perhaps a tactic, and it might be something right up front.
Yeah, I think whether others have coined the phrase ABM audit, but we're adopting that phrase at least around one of the things that almost like a checklist that you can go through to I think help you isolate maybe some of the knowledge gaps, capability gaps, just areas to improve execution that can help, one, ensure the budget, the investment, the spend that you're making is optimized, right? And then, secondly, and I guess what, senior stakeholders in particular are looking for is the results that you're generating for the business. And there is no shortcut, as we well know, in terms of building that, putting those really strong foundations, around audience selection, whether that's at an account level or a sector level or a geography level or firmographics, so that initial audience selection, and then drilling down into the specific, buying unit, decision makers, and that's users, influencers, detractors, final kind of budget holders. How well do I understand each of those individual entities within an account or group of accounts, and then how well am I speaking to the challenges, the needs, the goals, the ambitions that individuals within those roles will have, right? So there's and that in turn, right, if you understand that plus a deep understanding of the sectors or accounts and what's happening at a macroeconomic level as well as an individual account level, really help you to craft the effective messaging, right? And that's a big part of what we do as well, is really focusing on the messaging hooks, and using that to create differentiation as well.
Yeah, and I think, so picking up on the type of audience that you connect with, something that we've seen is that a lot of businesses, when they think ABM, default to one-to-one ABM. I think the market in general is beginning to realize that actually the investment required to deliver one-to-one ABM and actually have a big impact is huge. And the way we often go in, not because of budget, but actually because we feel like it's a better way to test the message with the market, is to look at those one to few campaigns, looking at that hybrid model where you can identify either it could be based on sector specifics, or it could be behavioral, could be buyer journey, many different reasons for collecting accounts together, but actually taking learnings from that one to few approach first. And then when you really understood what connects, then go deeper and invest one-to-one, which can help your budget go further in the long run, rather than spending an awful lot of money up front on going really, really deep on just a few accounts, which is brilliant for those accounts. But when you're in charge of end-to-end marketing, it's not great for the rest of your organization.
Yeah. And I mean, I definitely agree. I think if you're running true one-to-one ABM, you're talking about a budget of 100K plus for that one account. Like, realistically, that's what you can spend on true one-to-one marketing. Therefore, in essence, it is limited to those multi-million pound or dollar, accounts that you're seeking to either retain, acquire, or grow. And therefore, when you look at it as an overall kind of cost of sale, that investment is absolutely worthwhile, and the ROI is certainly, justified. The spend is justified in terms of the potential ROI and revenue benefit to the business. But there aren't many, organizations or even, accounts out there where, you can realistically spend that or justify spending that amount of money. So absolutely to what you've said and what we see and what we recommend, absolutely starting with that one to few approach. What works, you can test and refine the message, and then you gradually start to, you simply start to extend the scope and the reach of that message. And I actually think that's where we definitely see, in terms of overall spend and thinking again long term, while you often have an initial weighting of investment up front, you're actually investing in a huge amount of those foundational aspects, right? The research, the understanding, the messaging development, the content, and the spend can decrease over time because you start to generate those economies of scale, and therefore your ROI increases year on year as the program establishes and matures, and you're simply looking at refining rather than building from scratch. And I think that's often where, again, back to making big investments, right? If you've spent a huge portion of your available budget in technology and then not had the time or the resource or the investments to build some of, invest in those foundational things, you struggle to reap the benefits, right? Because there are major gaps missing, and therefore you're struggling to realize those economies of scale. You end up having to put more budget into paying for content and almost keeping your paid media spend and digital advertising going, rather than starting to realize those efficiencies.
I think connected to that is also the question of, at what stage in the buying journey are you starting to invest in those prospects, if indeed you're doing a net new customer piece? Because are you actually, or is there a confusion between your ABM budget and just good old brand awareness? So not taking anything away from brand awareness and it being absolutely critical and a part of your marketing, but actually if accidentally or unintentionally your ABM budget is being spent on trying to make very early stage people in your total target market aware of who you are, that actually isn't really where your ABM money should be spent. You want to be picking people up who are actively considering you. And you might say, and customers do say to us, well, we've got the tech, so we're registering buyer intent signals and we're taking people from that moment of showing us an intent. We have to remember that signal is based on keywords that you've assigned at different stages of your buying journey. So are those keywords right? That's all it is. It's somebody searching on a keyword that's demonstrating intent. So if you're seeing people coming into your program and you're not converting, they're not moving through the funnel, there may be a number of things at play. It could be, as we said, the insight, the audience, the message, but it could also be that they're just not ready to buy from you yet, in which case stop spending your ABM pounds or dollars on trying to desperately convert someone who's just not in the market to buy your products. Focus on those people who are, and that's where you'll have a much more successful program.
Yeah, and that's where some of your always on kind of marketing can help to, keep those people who are searching on those keywords. But again, they're too early. They're early, mid-stage, in terms of their thinking and their readiness to move forward. You can keep engaged, and you don't need to hook them in and put them into nurture sequences, right? I think you can engage them through, simply the content that you push out organically. Right. I think when you've created an association, people will find that content, will find you, will connect with what you're saying, and will want to consume more of that. You don't need to hook them in and keep pushing stuff into their inbox. Just you can do it in more in more organic ways, and again, lower cost as well, right? And then, as you say, focus then on those who are more ready to engage, and then it's a case of how do you support that, SDR, BDR kind of motion initially, and then into your kind of your sales, your full kind of sales playbook to help convert them. So yeah, absolutely, we're agreed. So I think if we were to summarize, right, the three key barriers that we see: alignment, and that's across functional units within an organization, and even across that global, regional, within marketing itself. Ensure you've got that consistent alignment. You have to work on it. It's not a one-time activity, it's ongoing alignment. Setting, we've got expectations, so expectation management, setting short, medium and long-term KPIs and measures of success, and then we've got budget. So I think tied to that is selecting the right type of ABM, so one-to-one, or as we recommend, one-to-few. Looking at your execution, so not single channel, it's a multi-channel execution, and that blend of inbound, outbound. So alignment, expectation setting, and budgets. Yeah,
absolutely.
Three key focus areas.
Yeah.
So I think we continue to talk about this a lot, and we could talk all day. But I think we'll continue to comment on it, and focus on checklists or things that practical things that you can take into marketers can take into their businesses, just to see where they can optimize. But I hope people found this conversation useful. I know we always enjoy a chat like this. Love to hear actually in terms of this type of content and format for Seeblue Smarts. So I say thank you.